No matter what facade or we put on and everyone's wearing the business suits and you're in the big boardroom and you're making a big mergers and acquisitions deal or whatever you're doing, deep down, people want to feel heard, acknowledged, understood, and loved.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where I, Kyle, from Curtin Real Estate, interview local top dogs in the real estate investing, wealth building, and personal finance industries. Let's build together. What's up, guys? This week's guest on the podcast is absolutely incredible. Nick has an unbelievable real estate story and is an extremely inspiring individual. I promise you guys are going to love him. In this episode, Nick and I chatted about his story to date, as well as a bunch of very valuable aspects of real estate investing, from painting the picture to solve problems, the value of strategic relationships, the power of accountability, and so much more. There is so much to learn from this episode, and I hope you enjoy. Let's jump right into the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 88 of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Today, we have the great pleasure of chatting with Nick Aalerud, an absolutely remarkable investor, the owner of the incredible AA Real Estate Group, a best-selling author, and accomplished speaker, educator, and trainer. Nick, what is going on, man? Super excited to have you on. I'm pumped.
Thank you, Kyle. Again, we were just talking about, I've been trying to shed ego for the last 5 or 10 years, so I still get weird when people say intros like that. But I appreciate being on. Happy to provide value if I can. Awesome stuff, dude.
100%. Thank you so much. Yeah, so let's jump right into your story, man. What kind of, gave you the real estate bug, and, give us that superhero backstory, if you will. No superhero here. I was out of school, and I decided that I was going to go into finance. So I worked for a Federal Home Loan Bank in Boston for about a year, which was kind of cool, on their trading desk. Just not actually as a trader, but sort of just observing and watching them do their thing while I was playing with finance. And then I got a job at Mellon Bank out of Boston and Everett, Massachusetts. So a lot of you, I think you and I have chatted before, so you've already heard this story before, but I'll share it with your listeners, right? So these, in finance, it all sounds really, really cool, right? And like pretty much every single person is a vice president. Like there's no such thing as entry level. But I did get promoted 3 times, still didn't have a vice president label, and I was making under $50,000 a year. So I was kind of like, they had me working 60, 70-hour weeks. We were basically a custody floor, so we were servicing other big name, mutual fund clients, one being Fidelity Investments. And they had me, don't worry, Nick's team will handle it. They'll take care of it. And, nights, weekends, I remember being there on Christmas Day, New Year's Day, doing foreign trading. Like it was just a lot, right? And I just remember it was actually over a board game of Risk. Do you know the Risk board game, Kyle? Yeah. Yep.
Do you play? I haven't played since then, but do you play that game?
I've probably played it once, like ever.
That's it. Yeah, you either love it, you hate it, right? It's a love-hate thing. Us former politics majors, political science, we're like, someday we're going to take over the world, and this is going to be a very cool thing to do. And I was pretty good at it. All my friends ganged up on me. We're 2:30 in the morning. They all gang up on me, and they knocked me out of the game. It's at my house. This is back in 2004. And I decided I can't go anywhere. They're in my house. So they're still playing, and I'm turning on late night infomercials, right? And I see the first one that is, John Beck's tax lien, free and clear real estate system, right? Pay $49 now in the next 10 minutes. And you'll get access to all of the secrets of buying real estate pennies on the dollar. And for me, honestly, Kyle, it was a total joke, like just to mess with my buddies. Yeah. Like, see, guys, look what you made me do. I'm sitting here watching infomercials, 2:30 in the morning. Here we go. I'm going to buy some brain powder next. Just you wait. And I literally get this binder in the mail, right? And so I read through it, and I'm still overworked. You know what that's like. I know you know what that's like. And I read through this binder, and there's some interesting stuff in it. Like, I get it. So, not like an inefficient market. There's no stock tickers and this and that. And, there's opportunities where, people are going through tough times, and sometimes you can help. And it said, if you're serious about investing, call this 800 number. I'm I guess I'm serious. I just paid $49 for this binder. So I called that 800 number, and the absolute best salesperson in the world, Kyle, talked to me into my first over the phone $6,000 coaching boot camp marketing thing. Right. And it was some dude from like North Carolina. Like, I don't even know who it was. Right. And I remember staying late at the bank. I was working late anyway, but I was staying past like 7:30, 8 p.m. I'd stop working bank hours, and I would just stay there in my cube and switch to real estate. And that's when they taught me a little bit about, how to set up and prep direct mail campaigns. They taught me a little bit about how to talk to sellers, but ultimately, Kyle, they got me to do the one thing that we've all as entrepreneurs done, which is read one single book, which changes our world. What book is that for you, Kyle?
Rich Dad Poor Dad, man.
There you have it. There you have it. That book changed every way I thought about finance. It taught everything way I thought about entrepreneurship. It reframed everything that my parents and society had taught me. That was everything I needed. And that was when I knew I had the bug. So I took that bug and I started the 2005 now. I went to I don't think you were born yet in 2005, right, Kyle?
I was born in 2000. Not too long after though.
I actually wasn't expecting you to be a 2000 baby, but hey, 19 something, but I am older than I thought. So 2005, that gave me the bug. And in 2005, they had something in Boston called the Learning Annex. And they had everyone there. Donald Trump was there, Robert Kiyosaki was there, and a whole slew of national speakers and gurus and coaches. And this was back when the last market was super hot, similar to now. And there's a lot more gurus now, right? Like, it's just interesting. So I blew all my money with I think 7 different courses, single family stuff, wholesaling, commercial, RV park investing, and a lot of stuff there. And I went nuts. Fast forward about 8 months. I have invested in all this training. I have taken all these courses. I've flown to Florida and I did a Rich University and Trump University and all that stuff. And I hadn't done a deal yet. And I'm really, really, really angry at myself for not having to do a deal. And I think you've heard this story too, but for the benefit of your listeners, I remember here's a visual for everybody. I don't know if people can see me now. If you're on Audible, you're not going to get this full, but I want you to picture me in the shower. In the shower. And I had hair. I had lots of hair back then. I know no one believes me, but I had lots of hair. I remember I had a shampoo bottle. It was a Suave shampoo bottle. I said, by the time I made just a commitment to myself. By the time this thing gets to 0, I have to have done a deal in real estate. And honestly, Kyle, that little thing became my first accountability partner. Every single morning, I'd get into that shower and be like, a little bit less. Come on. What are you doing today? You just going to go back to booking all your trades and making sure people are happy? Or are you going to work towards your dream or work towards your freedom? Or what are you going to do? And ultimately, that led me to trying to find time to go to the networking groups. And back then they were called RIAs, right? And going to, it was online on some of the forums. And finally, a guy found me. He was in Minnesota, and he found me hustling. And he said, "You know what, Nick? I've got an idea. You've been trying to get your first deal. You're out there. I have undervalued real estate that I have access to here in Minnesota and Wisconsin. I am going to, we have tenant buyers, like rent to own buyers that want to rent these things, but they can't quite get a mortgage yet. So I've got a cool plan, Nick. I'm going to get these undervalued pieces of real estate. We're going to buy them at 60, 70, 80 cents on the dollar. We're going to lease these for 3 years to these folks with, damaged credit or people who are working through things, but they have income. And they're going to contract with us to buy these houses 3 years later for 20% above what we pay for them." And back then, it was totally legal to contract with a seller for like $500,000 for a single family house. And at the closing table, you would finance that at 90 to 100% financing back then in the day. And they would give you literally a check at closing for like $50,000 and say, "Hey, thanks. Good luck to you." Right? Wow. But that was legal. It was the bank money, but it was called a payment authorization. And back then you could do stuff like that. So this is like a win-win-win-win situation for me. I would get money at the closing. I would get cash flow during the life of the 3 years of the rental cash flow, right? After that cleared the mortgage. And I would also get paid out in 3 years, 20% above what we paid for the property. The only catch was, so I had a partner and it was 60-40 split. I was 60, he was 40. He had bad credit, so he needed me to sign on all the mortgages, right? So I was like, screw it. I'm not doing one deal. I'm doing 5. Let's go. Like I'm going to get all my money back from all these courses that I had just paid for and all this stuff. Like, and this will satisfy my accountability partner, right? My shampoo bottle.
Suave. Yes.
Suave. Mr. Suave. Exactly. Exactly. So we closed on 5. And then we had our call with him on Monday. Me and a friend of mine, John, did it together here in the Boston area. And we had a call with him on Monday. And he didn't show up to the call. That's kind of weird. Then we had another call with him on Thursday. And he didn't show up to that call either. Like, this is weird. What's going on out here? Like, let's go next steps. We need to line up these tenants. We need to get these things, under rent and all this stuff. And well, as it turns out, Kyle, the 5 deals were real and mortgages were real, but the tenant applications were not real. The leases were not real. The resale purchase contracts were not real. The guy took 40% of the upfront money on the closings and he pieced out.
Are you serious? Oh my goodness.
So all this money that I just made wasn't really made, right? It was just debt money, right? That I had gotten at the closings. I then spent in attorneys to chase him and property managers to try to rent these things out. And well, you can only carry about, $2.6 million worth of debt with no income coming in except your W-2 job for maybe less than 6 months. My first 5 deals in real estate, Kyle, I think you already know the story, but I lost all 5. 4 went to short sale, 1 went to foreclosure. Wow. And that was my first and dreaded and ugly reset. We call them reset, I now call them rebirths, but reset button was number 1. So you asked how I started. That's the plan. I can go back into what happened next, or I can just stop right there and we can end and we can all just drink. What would you like to do?
I think we should mix the two of those. Wow. That's incredible, man.
You didn't know that story yet?
I knew like parts of it, but I got to get the nice full beef. Wow.
So I'll sum this up by saying, I've now been, that was 2005. I then realized 6 months later, I'll say what kind of brought me out of that. I had still paid for one of these coaches from that Learning Annex that I hadn't taken yet. I had paid for a course with Marshall Silver. He's a Las Vegas hypnotist and motivational speaker. And I was like, well, I can't be hypnotized, but either way, I'd already paid for this thing. I'm going to just take it, right? It's called the Turning Point. He still does them to this day. And I remember, even though I said I couldn't be hypnotized, I remember laying on the floor because he had us doing this exercise. And I literally remember, and this is in my book too, Don't Quit, Stories of Persistence, Courage, and Faith. It's on Amazon. I don't make any money from it. All the proceeds go to charity. Check it out. It's with a whole bunch of awesome, amazing authors. There's my plug. I remember being on the floor, like literally having a fight with myself, like yelling at myself saying, look at you. Like, what is this doing to help your position? It's like, well, it's not my fault. This guy totally fucked me. Like, of course, like, what am I going to do? Like, He's ruined my life. All my savings is gone. My credit is now 600. If the bank checks my credit report, because the bank, you need a good credit to work at a bank, I'm losing my job. Like, it was all crumbling around me, right? And then I remember saying, whose fault did you say this was? I was like, this guy, he fucked me. Like, you really think it was his fault, huh? Are you going to carry that? How long are you going to carry that for? Like, I literally had this battle in my head while I'm on the floor of this hotel room. And it taught me, right, the most important lesson I could have ever learned, which was literally what Jocko Willing calls extreme ownership, right? Like, this was me. This was me not being educated enough, not knowing what due diligence was, not knowing what real estate was, and perhaps being way over trusting, trusting and I didn't verify, right? Whose fault was this? And if that was the case, I could finally swallow it and try to move forward, right? And that ultimately became one of my biggest gifts ever, because 4 or 5 months later, when I finally got my head out of the sand, out of my ass, and I remember I knew how to do wholesaling, right? Like, I had taken a course in it, but I had never done it yet. I remember taking my phone out of the drawer where I'd put it, because I put my phone in a drawer because of all the collections calls. 38 seconds. I was getting a robot collections call every 38 seconds. And I just put it away.
Yeah.
And I remember, I had my little script out and I knew what I had to do, nights and weekends to try and get some deals done. I had actually met, to backwards up a minute, I finally reemerged after that horrible situation. I was so embarrassed, I couldn't even see the public, right? Like I was just putting my head in the sand in my ass to try to, I'm just going to work W-2, grind, like this is how it's going to be. And finally, I'm like, real estate's still my way out of this. I don't know how yet, but real estate's my way out. And I went to a real estate event, an investor, association. Now we call them meetups, right? And I met a guy who was buying triple deckers in the Somerville area. He showed me exactly what he was looking for. And I said, well, this is kind of the beginning of a wholesaling, right? Like I know I have a buyer now. I know what he's looking for. I'm going to go and hustle and just try to find him some stuff. And so nights and weekends, I knew I had to make calls and knock on doors to make that happen. But the first time taking my phone out of that drawer, putting it in front of me, and realizing that that wasn't an enemy, like I now had to use this tool to try and make money, to try and free myself out of where I was. I literally had this weird fear and trauma over just like handling my phone. Mm-hmm. And like, it's hard to describe, but I remember like, and then I would do absolutely anything I could to postpone, right? To procrastinate the actual picking up the phone and dialing the numbers. Anything I possibly could. I have to get the perfect script right. Oh, I didn't work on this yet. Maybe I should fill in another question here. Oh my God, my lucky notebook is not here. I have to go find my lucky notebook and go. I have a DCU pen that's not as good as my Enterprise Bank pen. I need to get the new pen out. I would literally make all this shit up, Kyle. Like this is in my brain. And the only thing that ever stopped me from saying that is when I finally learned that I can yell at my brain, which was exactly the photo you see here.
Oh yeah.
So I literally started yelling at myself just like I did that morning on that hotel room. And I said, just shut up. Why are you thinking about all this shit? Like, and that's when I learned a long time ago that our brain really is just a tool, right? We're not what we think. We are not our minds. We're not our emotions. We're not our guilt. We're not our shame. And I've been through what I call 7 reset buttons, even since that one. But that specific reset button, Kyle, me putting my head in the sand, realizing it was on me, realizing what I needed to do to get out of that situation, and realizing and overcoming the fears of the phone and overcoming the fears of talking to people and overcoming the fears of literally learning what deal flow was, learning what direct mail again was, how to make phone calls, how to talk to people, how to understand that I'm not here to even make real estate deals work. I'm here to make a relationship. Like learning all of that. In that course of time, in 8 months, I had enough money by flipping these contracts to this guy to do my own 3-family triple-decker rehab. This is in 2006 now. And I remember I found out I had to learn what hard money was, right? Because I had no credit. So I went and found hard money lenders. They lent on the property. And I had just enough of the 25% down payment to do this 3-family condo conversion, which back then was way different than doing condo conversions now. Like you didn't have to wait 6 years and pay off 19 people to do it. I broke even on that deal. And to me, that was the biggest win in the world, like proof of concept. And I learned a whole bunch about construction. And I learned what I knew was not my strong suit. I should not be the one replacing toilets or painting. I needed to be the one out making relationships and finding deals and perfecting that craft and perfecting making relationships. So that's a long-winded story, but it's really important, I think, for you and your listeners to realize that I think your life just becomes so much richer once you learn certain lessons, right? And I'm still learning every single day. I've had 7 hard resets, as I call them, and every single one of them, 2 divorces are in there, and those are probably the hardest ones when your personal life's on the line. Like, right, you don't know when you're going to see your kids again. So I mean, I'm open book, as you already know. I'm here to provide value to you and your listeners. I know it's about time, though. We can wrap it up. No, just kidding.
Wow. That's insane, Nick. Like, especially to go from, just those beginnings like that, go through, like you said, I really like the way that you word those, by the way, like the resets. I really, really like the way that you kind of look at it. Like, some people might say it's like, oh, like that was a failure or whatever it was, but like I feel like the perspective is everything. And like, definitely not to make things about me here. I'm just gonna kind of like say something real quick.
By all means, man, get in there.
When I found out with my property, because I forget if I was telling you about it or not, but so last winter, literally like a month after I bought the property, I had, oh, sorry, I'm just going to scroll that out of the way. I had
I'll tell you a story in a minute. Go ahead, keep going.
I had my furnace go, and I had 2 of my oil tanks go. Literally, like, right after I bought the house. Like, totally unexpected. And I learned a lesson in that very moment when I saw both of those tanks leaking on, you know, a Sunday night at 7 o'clock, and it was like 20-something degrees out. I literally, like, learned something that was so freaking important right there. I'm like, you know, like, you just have to be able to step back and rationalize and figure out what we're going to do. I'm like, you know, like, buying this property and, like, you know, everything that hopefully is going to, you know, come with, like, the real estate journey and everything. Like, the thing, you know, the things that everybody glamorizes. I'm like, you're also taking on, like, the problems as well. I'm like, so I'm accepting, you know, the good stuff that will hopefully come, you know, in due time, but you're also taking on the bad stuff as well. And, like, I feel like that's something that isn't really as glamorized as well, but like the lesson that I learned from going through that whole experience, man, I'm like, you know, like, this just comes with the territory, and like it's not a failure, it's just something that happened, and I'm like, it is what it is, you know, like it just comes with the territory, you know. You're just gonna keep moving forward and you know, get banged around a couple times, and like you're still gonna make it. You know, like it's, you know, like I said, I mean, like stepping after, or, you know, kind of stepping into that, you know, now, like, much after all those things have happened, I'm like, that's the best, like, you know, 10 grand, because there was something else in there too, but I'm like, that's like the best 10 grand that I've ever spent, you know. I'm like, in the moment, it absolutely sucked, absolutely hated it, you know, everything was miserable, why did I buy this friggin' house, you know, like, whole shebang. But the lessons that I got from that for only like $10,000, totally worth it. I'd totally do it again. I mean, hopefully not, but, you know, like I just, I totally see where you're coming from, man. You know what I mean? Like, and it's bigger picture. Like, it's almost like the sooner that, you know, bad stuff can happen to you and, like, you're able to learn from it, as long as it doesn't make you completely bankrupt or, like, you know, whatever the situation is, like, the more experience you're going to have right off the bat, you know, and learn a lot of those kind of life lessons and, like, mindset lessons and everything that you have to be able to keep moving forward. It just, Amen. It's just one of those things, man. Like, I'm like, wow. You know?
Amen. So wait, what you're saying, Kyle, is that real estate's not easy? Is it not? I thought I just signed on a dotted line and the cash starts rolling, mailbox money. That's what all the is, right?
That's what I thought too. I haven't went to the right guy yet. I don't know.
It's funny though. You mentioned bankruptcy too. I very clear. I know you and I both have a mutual colleague, right? Gordon's my co-coach in REI Ignition and Accelerated. So Gordon did hit bankruptcy, right? And he shares that openly. And and I hit foreclosure, right? And I hit divorce. So you mentioned, as long as you don't go bankrupt, oh no, you can lose everything literally. And we're still standing. And not only are we still standing, it takes that sometimes for us to learn what's really, really important, right? Like, it took a divorce for me to learn to be present for my kids, so that I didn't work all the time thinking that I was servicing the family by producing and being out there and going to, and, you know, speaking at events and writing books and, like, but do the kids, I mean, they saw me at Thursday nights. What else? You know what I mean? Like, are they going to just know me as the Thursday night dad? Like, holy shit. So it took that to get me to realize what's actually important, right? So I love that, man. I love that you already have the right mindset. You're right. The faster, the better. But hopefully they come one at a time, so you can internalize them one at a time and not all at once where you're like, you know what? Fuck this game. I'm out.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like, it totally, to your point, man. Like, the way that I kind of think about things is like, yeah, I mean, like, either you're quote unquote winning, like whatever, you know, people define that as it is, or you're learning. You know, like, I feel like the concept of failure, like, doesn't really exist if you're in it for the long term. You know, like, you're either winning and you're killing it, or maybe not so much, but you're learning the lessons that you have to make you a better man or woman to keep moving forward and make you a lot stronger. You know, like, where is the lose in that situation? You know, like.
Absolutely. The only lose is regret, right? Yeah. So if we learn to not have any regret and just to move forward, and whatever we do right now in this moment, whatever decision we make, that's the right decision, because we made it in this moment. We thought that was the right decision. And therefore, don't look back. Only look forward.
100%, man. And I absolutely love I love what you said a little while ago, Nick, with the like the Suave bottle and like the accountability. Like that's wicked awesome, man. I love that. Like I know you guys are really really big on accountability and everything, like with the like the mastermind like group and stuff like that. And it's that's wicked cool, you know, to kind of have that as like your first, because yeah, like you're gonna see that every morning or every night, you know, whatever you do, but you know, and be able to see like the level drop and be like, oh shit, like, you know, I'm gonna, you know, hit the ground running here.
And the fact that you do these podcasts, Kyle, so this is what I also learned, right? I'm an entrepreneur. It's just going to be me and mine. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it myself if I have to. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to crank harder. I'm going to grind better. So it's just me, right? And then what happens? Well, number one, fucking lonely at the top, right? Number two, is it not faster to try and find people to work with, or partners to hold you accountable, or a team, or mastermind groups, or a community? Like, why do we have to do this alone? And the answer is we don't, right? Like there's so much out here. Like everyone is, well, I can't share my secrets, then I'm going to be competing with people. But it's like, you don't even understand. No, first of all, the real secrets are what I feel the real secrets are is everyone who started in real estate in 2013 or higher have no idea what's coming. That's the real secret. But besides that, they can make any mistake in the world from 2013 to now and still put themselves up as a guru because they made hundreds of thousands of dollars because they haven't seen what happens in a declining market, which always happens. And that's okay. But anyway, you know, no one has to do this business alone. You know, there's always an accountability partner. There's always people putting on podcasts like you and creating value for others. And there's no such thing as competitors. There's co-opetitors. I like looking at everybody locally, right? Like I would rather partner with 100 people, right? You take, 20% of 100 deals and 0% of one, or I don't know. I don't even remember what that thing is. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Pieces are better than nothing. Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And even if you've had a bad partnership before, right? So it took me a long time to come out of those control issues. Because again, I did have that control. It was going to be all mine. I didn't trust people for a very, very long time. And then the moment that it opened up where I trusted again and I allowed people back in, and then I started providing more value back to them because I didn't want to hold it all in because that's my marketing strategy and mine. Like the whole world opened up to me.
Yeah.
And not only did it open, right? Like the whole world opened up to me. And I know this sounds, 5 years ago, or this is 10 years ago, none of this shit would have been real. But like, I just want to encourage all of your listeners, and I know that all your listeners listening to your podcast specifically, and who listen to mine, the Shut Up and Do It Real Estate podcast. That's plug number 2.
Shut up.
Those are people, right, that hopefully they're not in that scarcity mindset. They are abundant. They are knowing that there's deals everywhere. They are knowing that money is just an energy source and it comes and it goes. And if all of it leaves you tomorrow because you have a boiler and 2 furnaces and 2 tenants decide to move out and buy a house and now you have no cash flow and no cash, it comes back.
Yep.
It comes back because you are you and I am me, and that's who we are. We attract it. It's all good. This is crazy stuff, isn't it?
It is. It totally is. And like that's one of the things that I absolutely love about real estate, man, is like just like the thing that I have noticed about, you know, like really, really successful people is like they're just, you know, so open to help everybody, and like it's such like a, you know, exactly like you said, you know, like just an abundant mindset of like, all right, you know, just looking at everybody like the same, and like, you know, we're all working at this game together, like everybody can get what they want at the end of the day. Like, there's enough friggin' houses out there for everybody, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like there's 10 houses and there's 11 investors, you know, and that's it, period. Like,
unless you're on MLS. People on MLS are like, there's no houses. I know, because you're on MLS.
Yeah, that's different. Yeah. Yeah, and it's beautiful, man, because, like, I don't know, it just, like, you just never know, you know, like, who you could be working with in the future, like, who you could be, like, doing deals on. Like, it's interesting, like, just the nature of, like, everybody will be in the same area. Like, say if you're looking for, like, you know, buy and hold, like, 2 to 4 units in one neighborhood of Lowell. You know, like, yeah, there might be 10 other people at the meetup that are looking for something very similar, but, like, if everybody's helping each other out, like who cares? You know, I don't know, it's such a beautiful thing, and, like, I haven't seen it anywhere else, that, like, a community this big, like, doing something this big is just so 100% apt to help each other and everything. And like I've literally met like probably like one or two people out of quite a few that just kind of have that selfish, like, all right, like, screw you guys, like, this is my secret, like everybody else is like, all right, man, like, what are you looking for, like, how can I help you, and it's such a beautiful thing, man. It really is.
It gets, and it's funny, because as you get bigger and you get into bigger deals, now I will only do so. We started, I guess, the journey, right, for me was we did the wholesaling thing for a while. And then we did rehabbing. That first rehab that I shared with you, that 3-family in Somerville, was the first of over 500 or so. And I learned lessons along the way. Like, we had 6 complete utter failures along those, whatever we're at now, 450, 500 rehabs or whatever it is. But where that brought me, right, is that I also knew I had to start building wealth, right? Transactional money is not building wealth. Transactional money is G, we call it G, the getting the money. We still have to grow the money. We have to grow it. And while everyone loves to say it's all passive mailbox money, you and I know that is not passive mailbox money. But it's funny because I'll tell you that story. In 2009, I still did not have my credit back, right? In 2009, I knew I finally had my rehab game down. So, and my deal flow was strong. So we went around and I would try to do 4 rehabs here locally in the Boston area. And then I had to take that money and go to a market where I could buy houses cash because I couldn't get loans, right? I could use private money and all that, but I was generating money, so I might as well use it. And we had to find a market out of state where I could literally take like $35,000 from one of my flips here and go out and buy a house for like 20 and put 15 into it and rent it for $500 a month. Now, I found that market. A couple of colleagues of mine, Linda and Nyrick, brought us out there. It's in Western Pennsylvania, just north of Pittsburgh. And I started amassing a little portfolio out there, which became sort of what I thought as building wealth, right, in 2009. And I would try new, and I also managed these from afar, right? I had some local contacts, but I tried to manage them from afar. And I would test like little property management strategies out there to see if it worked. And that became a really cool moment for me. But as that happened, and we'll get into that story because that'll take another hour, but I had taken another guru's course that taught us how to go bigger faster. Why are you doing single family rentals and single family fix and flips when you could just be going after the 200 unit apartment complexes across the country? Why are you doing this when you could be doing that? So I dabbled in that for a little bit, and I realized that there's lots those people don't teach you. And I realized that there's a lot of it, and I aligned with another group that cost me a good 1.5 years of money, 1.5 years of time, and a whole marriage. And by doing that, I do that talk publicly. It's called My Brush with the SEC. I was not on the general partnership, but I was a limited partner, and I helped them raise some equity. And it was a struggle because I don't think anyone was malicious, but they didn't know what they were doing. And it cost a lot of people a lot of effort and time and stress. So anyway, I tell that story to say, going in from single families, which we still do, into 4 to 6 unit buildings, which we still do, and then going into the 150 and 200 unit apartment complexes and syndications, which we do, I now will only do 150 and 200 unit buildings, or we do self-storages now, we do RV parks, mobile home parks. I will now only do these big deals in these syndications with partners. Like, we'll find the deal, and we have the capacity to fund the deal with our investor relationships, and we have the capacity to do the due diligence, and we have the capacity to do the asset management. But honestly, Kyle, I don't want to. It's way too much. Like, we need to have strategic relationships in place where there's always at least a second or even third person that can like jump in when someone's not available, because it's not worth doing it alone. Like, we know what we value now, right? Like, is it cool to say that you're the owner of like 700 units? I could say that at one point, but that's ego. That's pure ego, and to be fair, I'm just going off on a tangent, by the way. Thanks, Kyle.
Go right ahead. I love this. Go nuts.
As a banker, I also learned that I can make more money on a 40 unit portfolio where I only have 5 partners than I can on a 500 unit portfolio where I am like a 2% general partner member. And I'm responsible for making sure everyone's good. And I'm responsible for all the investor communications. And I'm responsible for making sure third-party management does their job. And I'm responsible for any insurance claims that might arise if something happens to the property. Like, holy God, that's a lot of stress. And you get, one or two investors that are like, everyone has the right to ask questions. And I am a pain in the ass investor sometimes, right? Like, I'm getting better at it, but like, I get it. If you have someone's hard-earned money and maybe they're not used to investing yet, they're going to ask you lots of questions. And you know what I mean? Like, and that's a lot of stress. If you're the person that's in charge of making sure they all feel good, it keeps you up at night. Right. Yeah. So I've learned I can make more money. My balance sheet needle goes up and my cash flow needle goes up if I keep it to smaller deals and I'm not competing with institutionals, and I, have smaller numbers of investors in on those deals, but I only use partners. The whole point of this whole conversation was you talk about partnerships. I will only use partners now on bigger deals, but I wanted to share my journey in case that can resonate with anybody.
That's interesting, man. That's crazy. Like, especially to kind of look at something like that of like, hey, you might actually be able to make more monetarily, with a lot less effort, on maybe like a smaller deal versus like a, 200, 300 plus, whatever the deal is. That's something extremely interesting, because like,
but better on the cash flow and balance sheet. Yes. A small 20 unit deal is the same amount of work as a 200 unit deal, but you have to measure, how many investors, am I bringing other partners in? What's going to happen? Is it out of state? Like, you measure all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So when it comes to like putting a deal together, right? I know, you guys are really strong with like the deal flow and everything, like we were talking about earlier. When it comes to like, bringing on like potential partners or, kind of like getting to know people that are like, might have some capital aside, like how does that kind of go, I guess? Like, So I guess, do you find people kind of like coming to you a lot more at this point, or like do you still kind of go out and like, try and like raise the capital, I guess, like go to people, I guess you could say.
Oh, awesome. I love this. So I think I just got your question. I just did a podcast called, Is There an Easy Button for Raising Capital?
Perfect.
So is that what you're asking?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, let's go back. So that group that found me in 2010 and hired me to raise capital for them, they were trying to find an easy button, although they had some stuff going on, right? Most of the time people, and if it's actually a colleague of mine, Lance, who helps managers start and open funds, right? So he just wrote a great article about this. Ultimately, the only time I've ever found it easy to raise capital is when people approached me, right? Now I can build that list. I have to have relationships with them first anyway, right? So like ultimately, the only thing that's ever helped me raise capital quicker and quicker and quicker and easier has been to show up on podcasts, show up at meetups, be local, be invested, and then show people what we're doing on social media. And don't just show the 1% highlight reel. Show everything, right? Like I used to do that too. How embarrassed was I when that Minnesota thing happened? Like I didn't want anyone to know what had just happened to me. Right. Yeah. How embarrassed was I when my whole 2010 happened and I was like dealing with, depositions and subpoenas and this shit. Like, I'm like, oh my God, like how embarrassed was I when I was going through my divorce? Like we all, especially, I think too, we all want to just shrink, right? We all want to go to a little cave and just lock the cave and be like, I'll deal with this. I'll be fine. But just for right now, I just want to shrink down and I've learned some valuable lessons there that when I'm finally ready to come out of that cave and I just share and I just let it all out, all of a sudden I've got like, wow, man, like, thank you for being so genuine. I really appreciate that. And by the way, like, what if you're ever looking for more capital for a rehab or more capital for a multifamily, like, you never know where they're going to come from. My first investor was a person that I had known for 7 years and I'd become friendly with. And I had zero idea they had any gap. I thought they were scraping by. I had zero idea they had $180,000 in their IRA. They were just waiting to deploy it. Like nice. Zero. Like, so you never know where it's going to come from, like ever. And so that's my advice to all of your listeners. Like, if you're raising capital, be out there, be present, and share not just your wins, but share the struggles, share the lessons, right? You have wins and you have lessons. That's what you said, right, Kyle? Share the lessons, share every one of them, and they'll see you on your journey, and some of them might want to be a part of it, right?
That's huge, man. I love that so much. I mean, like, especially to your point too, like sometimes like when shit's hitting the fan, like, you know, you just kind of want to deal with it, and, you know, like, all right, whatever, like, you know, won't let anybody know, I'll just do me. But like, if you're able to share those things, like, it's things that, you know, a couple other people at the meetup, or like, you know, maybe like one or two people on your Facebook that you haven't talked to in 5 years might be going through the exact same thing. You know, like, I feel like it's really valuable, you know, especially from a point of like authenticity, to just be like transparent, you know, and just be like, all right, like, here's shit hitting the fan over here, but like, you know, over here we're doing okay and things are going swell. But yeah, you know, and just to kind of show like how you got through some of those problems, and, you know, like the lessons and like the things that happened. And yeah, I feel like sometimes it is kind of tough, you know what I mean? Because like, I don't know, like, it just, especially like if it's in the moment. But yeah, I mean, like, because I mean, like, if you are able to post something like that, then, you know, it gives other people the opportunity to learn from your mistake. And like, who knows, like, maybe they could avoid that problem, you know, 6-12 months from now. And, you know, just from hearing like a little thing that you said, or whatever it is. Oh yeah, you know, and just like how to get through it.
That's it. You're not alone, right? That's what we just talked about. You can be an entrepreneur, you can be an owner of your own company, and you still don't have to be alone.
Yeah.
And some people, as I've learned, that are entrepreneurs and trying for 3 or 4 years, like one of my business coaches just finally said to somebody else in the same group, he said, you know what, you've been really trying to do a lot of this stuff for about 5 years now. Did it ever even occur to you that you could be happier, even make more money by not being an entrepreneur, by being an intrapreneur, by being an entrepreneur under somebody else's team, like doing what you love and letting other people do what you don't love, right? Like, whether you're a partner with somebody, right, where you've got strengths and weaknesses, or even if you're part of another team, like, no one has to do this alone. And it's a struggle, man. I did it alone. Like, I was a 1 and 2 man operation for years and years and years. And I also blew up to where, you know, we had 30 people. And I also realized that maybe that wasn't what I wanted, because once again, I had built, right, like something that I now had to now make sure I hold all these people accountable, and I'm responsible for them, and I have to make sure there's work for them. And it's like, all right, maybe that wasn't for me. So I'm going through the same struggles and lessons like everybody else is. Right. And I'm just in love. I'm still in love with the thrill of the hunt, the thrill of the deal, but I'm more in love now with, like, how many people can we impact? How many people can we change their lives? And if I can do that by sharing some personal stories, right, on my social, or our entire podcast, like yours is, both of our podcasts are devoted to sharing value, right? Like, in order to qualify to be a guest on my podcast, you've had to go through some serious shit. Like, you have to share it. Like, you can't come on and promote anything unless you share your shit that you've been through. Like, that's the whole point. So, you know, what and to shut up and do it's all about our own head, right? Like, telling ourselves every single day to get up and just shut up with all the procrastination, shut up with the excuses, shut up with the blame and the guilt and shame that we feel, shut up with the regret. Just fucking do it.
Let's fucking do it. That's incredible, man. I think that's like the coolest thing in the world, you know, to be able to be like, all right, like, this is literally like, you know, the real stuff. So, you know, like, you have to have gone through some real stuff, you know, to be able to, like, you have to be able to share it. Yeah.
You probably went through some stuff in the HVAC world. I'm sure you, like, you know,
a little bit.
Yeah. You've seen some stuff. I know you do. You know what's funny though, Kyle? Because, like, real estate is not about houses or sticks of bricks, right? Real estate's about people, right? You know that already. Relationships. So we can get in this and, like, oh, well, we know how to, you know, change out a brick foundation, or we know how to replace a water heater. We know how to, you know, make ductwork high efficient. That's your world, not mine. I just know about hers ratings. But you know, we can do all that and get good at all that stuff. But ultimately, right, if we want to be really, really, really good at what we do, we have to learn people. We have to learn what makes them tick, and we have to learn what makes them fall, right? And I feel that has always given me almost an unfair advantage, because when I'm speaking to any homeowner, or any motivated seller whatsoever, I feel their pain. Like I literally feel it with them, and I can sit down and be in it with them.
Yeah.
But I also, like, they can't see the forest through the trees. Like I couldn't, but it's easy. Like, right. Like you've learned to picture perfect, right? If you've learned to paint that picture for them, like while you're sitting there with them and they understand that you understand where they are, and you can actually articulate their problems to them better than they can articulate it to themselves. When you win that game, and then you can paint the picture of what their new life looks like because you know that too, because you've seen it or done it or executed on it. Like it's game over. Like the number doesn't matter, because that's the whole point, right? People don't want people to go out and buy their house for cash fast. They don't care about that. They have a problem, and they want someone to hear them, to listen to them, to understand it, to feel it with them sometimes, and then to paint the picture and the path, how to get to the next steps in their life. And if as a wholesaler or a rehabber or a landlord or even even people in the big games, right? Unless you deal with an institutional player, there's always someone with a story behind it. And if you can get to that story and find out what their deepest pains are, what their fears are, what the challenges are around, where they are in their life, you'll connect. And when you connect, the best wholesalers in the world, right? The number doesn't really matter. It's how can I structure the offer and how can I make them feel loved and felt right now?
That's awesome, man. And like, I think it's something that's really interesting too, because like, I feel like it's just more of like a life skill, like communication, like that just happens to work extremely well in real estate. Like if your communication is very, very strong, like imagine like in other areas, man, like if you're able to, talk one-on-one with people or, whatever the case may be, and be able to like, ask the right questions and kind of feel out like, how they're doing, and, be able to get to that answer that, or, be able to kind of, I guess, break down some of those walls to get to the answer that you need, that might be like super emotionally driven or, whatever the case may be. Like if you're able to get to that and like just have like an insane ability, for empathy and sympathy and everything, and just be able to provide a solution, like that's insane. Like, do you think it do you think it just kind of boils down to like being like an absolutely awesome communicator? Like altogether, like scientifically, I guess you could say. I don't know.
How do you break that into science though, right? Like how do you break that in? I do feel, this is why I feel like just everything we go through, everything, even from like dropping like a hot dog on the floor or ice cream cone from when we're kids, like everything we go through, I think has a purpose, right? Yeah. It allows us to also relate to other humans. And yes, business deals, right? No matter what facade or we put on and everyone's wearing the business suits and you're in the big boardroom and you're making a big mergers and acquisitions deal or whatever you're doing, deep down, people want to feel heard, acknowledged, understood, and loved. Deep down. Like we're all the little kids, right? In school, at the playground, and instead of Bobby going over and punching Jimmy in the face when he said something wrong, now we use attorneys and lawsuits and complaints, right? Like, but we're all still the same, right? We just really want Bobby to just understand, like, and Bobby's like, Jimmy, you're just an annoying little prick. And he doesn't understand what his background is or his story, right? Like, it's just interesting. It's just really interesting. Yeah. So I mean, is it a skill people can learn? We have success with our student community, but there are some people, right, and that's okay because everyone's different. There are some people that are just meant to be something else. Maybe they're meant to be sales support. Maybe they're meant to be engineers. Maybe they're meant to be, right? Like there's a whole bunch of people out there that the world needs. Some people, I think, I think the more we work at our communication, the more we work at just listening to people, the easier things will be. There won't be any wars or divorces if people just learn to fucking listen. Like really listen, not just like the words are coming in, but like literally try to feel what they're saying and where they're coming from. And that's hard. People don't have the patience in this 3-second reel world. TikTok. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
Exactly. I know
I went on a whole bunch of tangents here, Kyle. Sorry about that.
No, this is what I absolutely love, man. Like super quick side note, like with the podcast, like I used to just have like a bunch of questions, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and like just like bang them out like one after the other. But then I like completely done away with that. And I'm like, all right, like maybe I'll ask one. But like this is what I love, man. Like when it just opens up and like whatever happens. Like it's just a lot of fun, it's just a talk. But yeah, going back to what I was gonna say. So a while ago, I think it was probably like a month or two ago, I actually had Gordon on the podcast.
Yep.
And man, like, oh my goodness, like I love that guy so much, and he knows that. Gordon, shout out to you, man. But there was something that he said on the podcast that really hit me, and like I think about it all the time, and it's that everybody just wants to feel loved at the very end of the day.
And I said the same thing, so I get credit.
Exactly.
No, keep going with what you're saying, because it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah, and he was just saying, like, you know, if you just keep boiling, you know, problems and like why you want to do the things that you want to do, like, you know, what's your why for like everything that you're trying to do, like if you just keep asking questions like all the way down, it's probably gonna be like, you know, because so and so just wants to feel loved and appreciated, and it just like it just like took me back. I'm like, wow. And like that's something that's gonna sit in my head for, you know, the rest of my days. You know what I mean? And it just, yeah.
The mechanics of real estate, it's funny because everyone comes to us, right? Like, oh, I want to do real estate, no money down. I want to do real estate and learn subject to. I want to do real estate and, you know, I have no cash or credit, but I need to make $1 million this year. Like, and it's funny because all that stuff's so doable. It's like, it's the mechanics, like knowing how to market for sellers, where to pull my lists, how do I reach out to them, what messages do I say, how do I talk to them when they call back, how do I track the marketing, how do I go and do an appointment with them, that stuff is so freaking easy. What's not easy is our own fucking stories. What's not easy is us not realizing they just want to be loved. What's not easy is understanding that if we just took a minute and stopped thinking about what we need out of that situation, I hope I get that offer, I hope I get that offer, I hope I don't screw this up, I hope I don't screw this up, oh my God. And we focused on them just for a minute and didn't care about the deal. Just making that relationship. You know, in my team, they are rewarded if they get a testimonial. They don't have to get the deal. They need to get a testimonial. They need to get a seller to say, I spoke to, you know, 6 or 7 different home buyers, and this specific person is the only one who made me feel listened to, heard, and acknowledged. And while I didn't get the deal, or we didn't do it, you know, we didn't sign the contract, I just want everyone to know that I really care about this person. Like they made me feel cared for. They win. Then we all win. And what can we not do with that testimonial, right? Like we use that testimonial, we could generate 10 times more leads that way.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. Like you're absolutely right. I love that you brought it up. Like everyone just wants to be loved. Everyone. You know, thank you for saying that. And people don't get it. They don't get it. Like just listen. Take the time to listen. No wars or divorces. If anyone just listened to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like the deeper that I get into real estate, like the more that I'm realizing is like how much is I guess how much, you know, is really affected by like your mindset and like core values and like you know, all the tactical stuff, like great, like congratulations, but like if you can really boil it down to exactly, you know, like reaching that like those points with people of like, all right, like, you know, how does this guy, you know, what's going on? Like, how do I, you know, dig down to find that problem? Like, how do I, you know, make him feel appreciated? Like, what do I have to do? Like, completely outside of real estate. Like, just from one person on planet Earth to the other person on planet Earth. You know, it just so happens to be, like, in the real estate, like, environment. You know, it just, like, I don't know, it seems like just more and more like life skills, like over and over again, you know, like just the communication and, you know, just being able to find like the right things, I guess you could say, you know, to just between people, and like real estate just so happens to be there too, you know, and like, I don't know, it's interesting. Like it seems like there's just so much to learn about life and, you know, core values and everything that comes with being in the real estate space. And like, you know, just the more that you're able to kind of like understand, you know, a lot of those different aspects, like the better off in the real estate like space that you're going to be.
Oh man, these are such wonderful, wonderful topics you're bringing up, right? Like, so the thrill of the hunt, the thrill of the deal. I was addicted to deals for about 12, 15 years, right? Addicted. Where's my next deal? Where's my next deal? It's like cocaine. Yeah. I never did cocaine, but I know what they do. No, but you know, like it's an addiction. It is like people, especially when you're a salesperson, like the hunting, right? There's farming and then there's hunting. Here's the challenge. And I read Simon Sinek's book called The Infinite Game. And it basically said that when all else is said and done, you know what? And I'll share this, everyone should go and YouTube that and whatever they want to do with that. But like, he talks about two different companies, which really stands out to me. He said he went to go speak at an IBM convention, right? With all the IBM people, PC people. And they're all in the audience and they have this big annual meeting and they're all up there talking all about, last year we did this. And this year we're doing this. And there was cheering and, here's a new, the modification of this model. That's what we all want that. And then they're like, then they start putting up Apple on the screen. And, and all the boos come out, boo. And then they like take out a mascot. And they start like killing the Apple mascot. And then it's like funny because they start going over the numbers of Apple and what their numbers are going to be. And Simon said, I found that so interesting because then, and 2 weeks later, he spoke at the Apple convention. And they don't mention IBM once. They don't mention any competitor. They are looking at what's the next thing that we can blow the world's mind with, right? Like, and by the way, this is coming from an Android person. I don't even have an Apple. I don't enjoy them. I'm just saying that, like, I found that interesting. And he talks about, like, it's okay to have a worthy rival, but the moment you get into competition space, like, you can be so obsessed with numbers and beating your competition and beating that person that you lose the whole point. And the whole point of infinite game is that every time you even touch a number, that's finite, right? I want to do, like, I started by doing 6 deals in a year and then 10. And then 18, and then 36, right? Like, you just blow it up and you can scale that way. But what's the point of going from 100 deals to 400 deals a year? Like, what's the point? More money? Well, now you need to, payroll and overhead and all that stuff. He's like, the whole point is, when does that stop? And it's an addiction. And if you're only going after transactions, you're only going after like what you're doing on a day-to-day basis to get more deals and more projects or more rentals even. Like, if you're only doing that, then you're just addicted to money. And what's money? That's just energy that goes back and forth. Like, What are you doing on a day-to-day basis to provide impact? What are you doing to change the world? What are you doing to help someone today? Like, people, I think when you're, very young, like, I'm not saying you young, Kyle. I mean, but I feel like we all can go through this phase where we have to grind. We have to understand what it's like to try to make money. We have to understand what it's like to survive, right? But then once you get to another point, you realize that money doesn't matter. Like, one of your questions, because I did read your Q&A beforehand, is what is wealth? And I want to ask you, what is wealth to you? Because I think you already know what I feel wealth is. What is wealth to you, Kyle?
Ooh, this is interesting, man. I've never had anyone flip the script on me like this. That's awesome.
I read your stuff. I read it over. I'm like, we're not talking about any of this, but
I love it, man. So wealth to me personally, it's to be able to, just kind of have the abundance and be able to quit my day job and tell my mom that she can quit her day job too, and kind of. This is like the real stuff. Like I don't even like say this to like most people, but literally, like, what wealth is to me is to be able to, create enough passive income to be able to quit my day job, tell my mom to be able to quit her day job, and be able to give back to her for raising me and my sister. That's what it's all about, man.
Look at how your face looks right now. Look at how you feel. Right? It's real. It's real. Yeah. And you know why? Because you want her to feel loved.
Yep.
Right? So there's money. It's energy. As my aunt once told me, right? They used to use cocoa beans. It's just cocoa beans. It's like not real. It comes and it goes, but it can help facilitate, right? Time freedom. For me, wealth is about time freedom.
Yeah.
For me, it's about freeing up to do anything that you want to do, which ultimately, for me, to be more fulfilling, you have to generate impact. You're not just going to sit down and watch Netflix once you retire. Like, no one's going to do. If we're in this game, we're not doing that.
No.
So for you, it's about creating a lasting family legacy that completely frees up your mom and makes her feel, wow, I created a kid that totally believes in freeing minds everywhere. bring minds across the world, and he's helping the family, and he's helping his friends, and he's providing value everywhere he goes. Like, holy shit, I win as a mom, and he wins as my son. I feel it, dude. I love it. So thank you. It's a great question. That's why it's great, because people think wealth is like, oh, growing assets. All right, cool. I just need, 20 single family homes that throw off $200 a month in net cash flow and X amount. Okay, there's my mailbox money. Great. And I'm never going to have any problems. It's never not going to come in. So I can always count on it. I can immediately bank my kids' college education by just buying another 10 of these things, because that's how it works. It's easy, right? Oh, and FHA, I'm sure they'll fund all of the 25 homes that I'm about to buy. 3 or 5% down, right? Like, no one knows the actual challenges, right? But it's like, it's a beautiful thing to go beyond the real estate, to go beyond the why. Why are we doing what we do on a day-to-day basis? And you and I both believe real estate is the number one best wealth generator on this planet. I know that crypto people are out there. I feel, again, being in finance, formerly finance, crypto for me is still extremely, it's gambling. You don't know. I know that some things are backed by actual blockchain, and some things are backed with actual, stuff that it does, versus just, oh, here's a coin that just came out, I'm going to put a whole bunch of money into it. Or here's an NFT that just came out, I'm going to put a whole bunch of money into it. It's gambling. If you want to go to a casino, go to a casino. People will always need food, water, shelter, and I also think guns. That's what I think.
Yeah.
If you have one of those 4 things covered, even if the US dollar hits zero, even if all the Bitcoin in the world hits zero, even if all the computers, and all they have to do is light off, this is in my head, right? All they have to do is do what that movie did and light off, what's that big bomb, the light that kills all the electricity in an area? You know that thing?
Like an EMP?
EMF. Yeah,
EMP. Yep.
EMP. Gone. Like, crypto's gone, right? Like, I know, oh no, it's all across the world. Well, no, what if the spies come in and light off EMPs across the world? And like, I've seen that traffic light thing. I forget that movie. But yeah, it's a good movie. So anyway, housing, food, water, guns. And we've got one of those covered, Kyle. You've got HVAC covered. Wherever you are, you've got HVAC covered. So that's like a big deal. People can't live without central air conditioning, even if everything goes down to hell. So
I totally agree. It's funny you say that about the crypto too, man, because like people have explained it to me, like the blockchain and like the science of it and how it works, like a million freaking times. I still have a very, 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 very basic understanding of it, and like, I don't know, it's me personally, like, it's never something that I would be very bullish in. Exactly. Like, I kind of look at it the same way, like, as gambling, just because, I don't know, I don't really like ridiculous speculation, man. And I don't know, but I just am all set, like.
Well, you're in real estate, right? Exactly.
You want to be able to control stuff, man, like, I don't know.
Exactly right. I mean, that's exactly why I got out of finance, actually. We don't have enough time for that story. I have stories, dude. We should do this again.
I'm down. Totally, man. Wow. Oh my goodness. Nick, thank you so much for coming on here, man. I feel like we could literally talk for the next friggin' 5 hours, man.
Thanks for having me, brother. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
This was awesome, man. We're on oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, we're on social media. Can you, the podcast, the group, I'll put everything under the sun in there.
Oh, cool, man. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Definitely.
So the website's under construction, but if they go to the podcast site is shutupanddoitrealestate.com. That's shutupanddoitrealestate.com for all guests that have been through some shit that have come out. There's a bunch of national folks in there, which is good. Some familiar names to a lot of the guru people out there. There's also if they want to come chat with me, they can find me. I'm trying to be more like you, Kyle. I'm more of a Facebook old guy, like a bald. So most people don't even know what Facebook is anymore. It's now called Meta or something. Us old people use Facebook. So I am on Facebook, but I'm at my friends limit. So you guys can, I guess Instagram is probably the best way. It's just Nick Aalerud, Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. The company's aarealestategroup.com if they want to go there, but would love to. I'm just here to provide value, man, like you saw, and I'm here if anyone wants to partner on deals, that's awesome. If anybody wants to get some guidance, we're here for that too. And we're always looking to just chat with good people. So thank you for having me on, man.
Awesome.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Nick. It means the world to me. Alrighty. Have a fantastic day, my friend. I will talk to you later. Thank you so much. Alright, guys. That concludes our Creating Wealth podcast episode for today. I want to thank every single person that has listened this far. It really means a lot to know that people can learn from me and with me as we build wealth together. Hopefully you can take home at least one thing from this podcast that will improve your life just a little bit. If you could, please check me out on social. That's at Kyle Curtin Real Estate on Instagram, Facebook, and I'm on Biggerpockets. Until next time, let's build together.